Hello, freshman knights. So we are continuing to explore telling details in a text. And so with activity 1.8, we're going to move into a new short story called Lamb to the Slaughter. A couple of your choice activities on your choice board this week are in reference to this story. The author is Roald Dahl, and so one of your options is to explore his website and learn about him. He was quite an accomplished man. And another, would be to watch the Alfred Hitchcock interpretation of this story. So it's a normal 30-minute television episode that was on back in the late 1960s, early 1970s, and it is Alfred Hitchcock's interpretation of the short story. So you can watch that and get a feeling for how it works on screen. And just by the way, Roald Dahl, the author of this story, also wrote the screenplay with Alfred Hitchcock that then landed on television. All right, so we're going to use telling details to gain some insights into the main character's emotional state, so looking at the learning targets here. And we're going to analyze the text for different ways that the author builds suspense. So something I've asked you to do this week is watch the TED Ed videos about irony. There are 3 of them, and they're all very short, 2.5 to 3 minutes each. And they're really very entertaining as well as very explanatory. They're informative, and they really do help us understand what irony is, what it is not, and in this case, what dramatic irony is. So when the audience and the reader know things that perhaps characters don't know, that leads to dramatic irony. It's when you're watching a scary movie and you know that the guy is behind the door, the bad guy is behind the door, and you know that sadly it's always the blonde cheerleader. I'm sorry, cheerleaders, and I'm sorry, blonde people, but it always is. And you're screaming at the television, don't open the door, don't open the door. And then they always open the door. But we knew something that they didn't know. Right now, of course, in order to modernize filmmaking, they're twisting irony a little bit, and they're, sometimes changing that up. You open the door and boom, there's no one there. That's to extend that idea of suspense. So hopefully you have a chance to watch those videos, and so you can see how authors build suspense in stories and in film, and we're going to talk about that with this particular story. So in 1.8, underneath the preview here, we are going to read the first half of this short story and find those telling details that allow us to delve into the main character's mind. The second half of the story comes in 1.9. So taking a look at the learning strategies, what we're going to do, we're going to mark some text. We're going to think, pair, share. Basically, you're going to think, you're going to ink, so you're going to write some stuff down, and then we will share during our live session. And you're going to visualize, try to picture the setting, because the setting is important in this story. And so you're going to try and visualize what the characters can see around them. All right, so let's take a look at the opening writing prompt. It says, read the first 7 paragraphs of Lamb to the Slaughter and respond to the following question. How has Mary set the stage for her husband's return from work? And what is her emotional state? So we're going to take a look at these paragraphs and see how Mary's feeling and how she is getting ready for her husband to come home from work. The as you read tells us to highlight telling details that reveal Mary's emotions. So we will do that. And then circle unknown words and phrases. Try to determine the meaning of those words by using context clues, word parts, or a dictionary. And as a reminder, you can highlight words. So I'll just go right here. This word experience, if I highlight it and click on define, it will underline that word, and I can go back and click on it and get a definition for it. So if you come across words you don't recognize and you're in the digital text, you can use that process. So I'd like you to pause for a moment and read about the author. This is just a really small glimpse into the world of Roald Dahl. All of you know who he is, even if you don't recognize his name. He's the author of James and the Giant Peach. He wrote Matilda and the BFG. So you probably have read several of his works or are at least familiar with them. So pause for a moment, read about the author box, and then come on back. All right, welcome back. So here we are down at the story. And again, just like last time, there is an audio of the story. So what we're going to do for this one is I'm going to play the audio of the first 7 paragraphs. And as it's playing, I'm going to highlight those telling details of Mary's emotional state so that we can come back to them. So follow along either in your paper text or on your digital version as we listen to the audio.
Lamb to the Slaughter, Part 1, by Roald Dahl. The room was warm and clean, the curtains drawn, the 2 table lamps alight, hers and the one by the empty chair opposite. On the sideboard behind her, 2 tall glasses, soda water, whiskey, fresh ice cubes in the thermos bucket. Mary Maloney was waiting for her husband to come home from work. Now and again she would glance up at the clock, but without anxiety, merely to please herself with the thought that each minute gone by made it nearer the time when he could come. There was a slow, smiling air about her and about everything she did. The drop of the head as she bent over her sewing was curiously tranquil. Her skin, for this was her 6th month with child, had acquired a wonderful translucent quality. The mouth was soft, and the eyes, with their new placid look, seemed larger, darker than before. When the clock said 10 minutes to 5, she began to listen, and a few moments later, punctually as always, she heard the tires on the gravel outside, and the car door slamming, the footsteps passing the window, the key turning in the lock. She laid aside her sewing, stood up, and went forward to kiss him as he came in. "Hello, darling," she said. "Hello," he answered. She took his coat and hung it in the closet. Then she walked over and made the drinks, a strongish one for him, a weak one for herself, and soon she was back again in her chair with the sewing, and he in the other, opposite, holding the tall glass with both hands, rocking it so the ice cubes tinkled against the side.
All right, so I'm going to see if I missed anything as we were listening there. I'm sure there are things that I probably should have underlined. I like this word up here, slow, to indicate her emotions. There was nothing, she was not upset or anxious about anything. She was calm. She was sewing and tranquil. So tranquil might be a word that you want to define. So I'm going to mark that for definition. Maybe. So it probably isn't doing that because I already have it marked for something else. So I'm going to go back and erase and then tell it to define. Maybe. There we go. All right, so tranquil meaning free from commotion or disturbance. So she's very calm. So she's pregnant. She has a wonderful, I'm going to underline wonderful here, translucent quality. Her mouth is soft. Her eyes seem larger and darker than before. Think about what we think about big eyes, right? We always look at illustrations, drawings of people, and we always consider, open big eyes tend to be more innocent, and thin, squinty eyes tend to be less innocent and more peering. That's just, kind of how cartoon artists draw. So I think maybe these large, dark eyes feel innocent to me. Let's see. She begins to listen. He's very punctual. She hears him coming and she puts her sewing aside. She stands up and she goes to kiss him. And she says, "Hello, darling." So these are all very nice phrases. She takes his coat and she hangs it in the closet. And there's where I missed some stuff. So she walks over and makes a drink for him. So she makes him a strong drink and a weak one for herself. I know some of you are thinking she's pregnant. Why is she drinking? Back in the 60s, they did not really fully understand the effects of alcohol on pregnancy. So, yes, you shouldn't drink while you're pregnant, but this was a long time ago. So, thinking about the time and the culture then. So, soon she was back in her chair again with the sewing, and he was in his and rocking. I'm just going to put on here, he was rocking his drink. Okay, but that's about him, so I'm going to leave it. All right, so we have identified some things about her. So we're going to go back up. It says, read the first 7 paragraphs and respond to the question. How has Mary set the stage for her husband's return from work, and what is her emotional state? So hopefully through the examples of what we've underlined, you realize that she's anticipating his homecoming. So she has closed up for the evening by closing the curtains and turning on the inside lights. It's warm. She has set out the glasses and the ice for the drinks, and she's just waiting for him to arrive. So that's setting the stage. And then her emotional state is clearly without anxiety, is what it says there. So she is calm, tranquil. She's happy to see him when he arrives. She gives him a kiss and says, hello, darling, takes the coat. So those are all my thoughts on the opening writing prompt. So now what I would like you to do is you can go ahead and hit play, or you can continue to just read to yourself in the story as you go through. Again, as it said in the as you read, you are highlighting, telling details that reveal Mary's emotions. Okay, so starting with paragraph 8, I'd like you to go ahead and continue reading, and then we will come back in video number 2 to talk about the questions and activities that you're going to complete. Enjoy the story.